Yeah, because I know guys are a bit hungry and tired, but I'll take the shortest time possible just to go through some of the interesting or important findings that we got from the Youth Pulse survey that we did in Kenya. So I'm Charles from Shujaaz. So I'll briefly also talk about organization, maybe as the team is putting up our presentation. So we did two surveys. The first one was done before the election, and then the other one we did it after the election, just to get a feel of what the youth are saying concerning elections. So quickly, as part of the enhancing early warning and prevention of counter-hate speech and incitement ahead of the election, our company Shujaaz, along with the Influence and Code for Africa, it's called the MAPEMA Consortium. So MAPEMA stands for Maintaining Peace and Early Warning Through Monitoring and Analysis. So that's the consortium that we came up with, just to continue working on what, trying to ensure that the youth are informed, or just checking the pulse of the youth as pertains the elections. So these are in collaboration with the NCIC. We've seen the commissioner here and well represented the NCIC, supported by UNDP, and then the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, that's the UN. Also, we got funding from the UN, United Nations Peace Building Fund, and also from the German government. So, just quickly, just explaining who Shujaaz are. So we are a network of social ventures. We reach about close to 10 million youth in East Africa. Our offices are we operate in Kenya and Tanzania. And then you can just see some of the numbers that are there for Shujaaz. I know most of you know Shujaaz for the comic that normally comes as an insert on the Saturday magazine. So apart from that, we do a lot of youth interaction online as well. And we use a range of tools to understand what's really going on with the young people. So we have the classic ground truth methodology, which is a qualitative study. So we call youth in such a session, focus group sessions, in-depth interviews, just immersing with the youth and understanding what exactly goes on with them. We normally conduct the national surveys, both in Kenya and Tanzania, speaking to over 2,000 youth. In Kenya, we go to all the counties, all the 47 counties, with the exception, of course, where we have problems in security. Because I remember last year we didn't go to Lamu and was it Isiolo? There was some issue with security, so we didn't go to those particular countries. But normally we conduct the national surveys. We also work with academic research, so universities both at home and abroad, we work with them to analyze the data and of course generate insights on what the youth are thinking about. So the next slide, please. So I'll just quickly go through our findings, more so on youth participation as pertains elections. The next slide. So we see that at the end of 2021, over 8 million Kenyans aged 18 to 24 were eligible to vote in the general election. But then this is the largest youth electorate in Kenyan history, representing just about 28% of the electorate. So this is a massive number for us as youth, and mostly we are looking at the youth who are able to qualify to vote. So between 18, just any person above 18 years old. So this was the largest youth electorate, and these are data which even IEBC has this data. And then, the multiple research studies that inform this report that I'm presenting consistently has shown that young people care deeply about democracy and civic engagement. And you can see some of the proportions there. For instance, 2/3 of them, most of them are saying that who took part in our annual survey said that being heard was least moderately important to feeling like lives was good. And a quarter said that it was highly important. But then we'll also delve into why they are not actually participating in the voting process, and we'll see some of the examples. So despite the young people's enthusiasm and desire to make a positive change in their communities, only 1/3 of them eligible, the 18 to 24-year-olds, at least those who are within our target audience, are registered to vote. And why were they not registering to vote? So those are some of the insights that we'll see on the next slides. What prevented them from voting? Number one was knowledge. Most of them said they lack knowledge about government and how politics works. and then only around half understand the basic system of the devolved governance. So there's the issue of knowledge. They don't really understand what happens, and this is one of the main reasons that these young people did not actually participate in the voting process. That is one of the key quotes that we got from the focus group participants. So the issue of perception around, votes being stolen, then why would I participate in the process if there's already a predetermined, winner in the process? So why would I actually participate in the process? So they say, votes have been stolen in every past election, and this is the reality from, the introduction of multi-party democracy. We've had incidences, whether real or perceived, of votes being stolen. So that actually, make the youth not really want to participate in the process. And then the issue of IDs, most of them don't have, they say they don't have national IDs, and of course the cost of getting an ID, for instance, if I'm in the rural area, I have to go to the nearest, youth, the nearest chief's office or Huduma center in order to get an ID. So quite a number of issues that are, preventing these young people to register to vote. And then the issue of trust. COVID-19, also we all understand the effects of COVID-19. Many young people carried a heavy burden during this pandemic. I remember in our poll we asked, how many of you are doing something to make, to add something on the table, and we got an overwhelming response. Even 17-year-olds in the villages were actually doing something to bring food to the table. So in as much as, this is a process which for them they should participate in, but they have other burdens, other hassles that they need to participate in order to bring food for the table. So will I go to get an ID and register to vote, or will I look after my family, or even the people I'm taking care of? And then most of them, the next slide please, most of them didn't vote because they did not register to vote as voters due to the limited time that was there for the registration process. So the limited time that was also there for the registration process, not a lot of communication was done and encouragement for them to go and vote. So I think just for us as stakeholders, how do we continue making them to be involved in this process? Looking at some of the expectations and the experiences during the election process, most of them are saying, and this is from the series of focus group discussions that we conducted across Kenya, the young people in my neighborhood are afraid of the post-election violence, similar to what we observed in 2007. So if you look at this audience, most of them who are currently 15 years old were just born then, and the ones who are just 24 years old, maybe almost through their campus education, were about 9, 10 years old then. So these memories are still fresh in their minds, and they really want to participate in something which, brings back those memories. So I think just, just throwing it back to our political leaders as well, how do you ensure that we are not, repeating that sort of cycle which wins the young people away from participating in the election process. Many young people are concerned about violence, and you saw that, and then this time around, they are saying we showed some maturity, looking at the findings from this election, the most recent election. We are confident that when other elections come, we will not have violence, because everyone was anticipating that we'll go the violence way. Looking more so, especially that we were divided right in the middle. There was the one wing which was supporting one leader, and the other wing as well. So there was an anticipation that it could escalate into violence, which fortunately didn't happen. So this is what we want to see, and this is what we want to continue preaching, that it's not about the politicians. They're out there looking for jobs the way some of us are looking for jobs. So why would we want to kill each other because of the politicians? So I think we're seeing some maturity, and it's about how we keep up that, communicating to the youth, enhancing them to continue looking out for themselves. And then young people had positive experiences during the election. They are also cautiously optimistic about future elections. So in as much as they're optimistic, then it also depends on the politicians, how are they playing. We keep on hearing a lot of negative speech or hate speech, for that matter, being propagated by the politicians. So are they watering down or diluting the efforts that all these organizations seated in this room are trying to preach? So I think it's a tall order, as Commissioner had said here. I know there's the legal process and a lot of things that have to go into just keeping everyone on check. But essentially, the young people are optimistic, but cautiously, that's the word there. And then what are they concerned about post-election? They're concerned about the corruption and the rise of misinformation. We saw all manner of politicians throwing words at each other before the election, and people expecting that there will be some level of corruption, so they're really concerned about that, and also the issue of misinformation, more so on social media. That's really some of the post-election concerns that the youth had. Just looking beyond the ballot box, and if you look at some of the quote that they said on the next slide, this year's elections have given trust in IBC and the judicial system because they have been fair. That's the perception that came out. In as much as we had two camps, it really showed us that if you are aggrieved or there's something wrong, there is a process to follow, and everyone has to follow that process, regardless of whether you have 7 million votes or less. So you still have to follow that process, and that of course gave credibility to our institutions, and the fact that this can continue, promoting peace within the young people. These are just some of the, building trust. If you look at the question that we asked there, have this year's election changed your level of trust in the electoral system, in the electoral process, sorry. So we are seeing the numbers there, which are really encouraging for us. We see that, of course, touching on the current government and just their perception on the current government regime, we see what focus group participants said there. Let me explain, as in for the longest time we've had Uhuru and Moi family in power, so the dynasty perception that was there, but now we can see that a farmer can rise and become a president, breaking that cycle. So there's some encouragement, and that came out from the focus groups. We talk to these people in the language that they understand. So whatever they say is what we come and tell the people or the stakeholders to actually work with what the young people are saying. So there is some hope, but how do we sustain that hope for the long term? I think I'm almost wrapping up. So I've talked about the positive, positive perceptions. Or rather, regardless of the political alliances, which were, it was a really 50-50 game. Young people see some symbolism, or they're hopeful with the current regime. So that's the perception. As we are speaking, we are still conducting surveys to see, with the current ongoing, is it affecting, or how is it affecting the perceptions with the young people? So the new expectations for the current regime, or rather the new president, is quite high. So the expectation is that the poverty levels will come down. They want a president who will reduce food prices. I know we've all seen the issues with the food prices, not only food, even fuel. And we also, the expectation is the education. So a lot of emphasis are put on those three areas. And then from our annual survey, we see that increasing youth participation begins with communities. So when young people feel isolated and disempowered, then within their communities, and they feel that they don't have opportunities to make an impact, they're less likely to engage with governance, and they're less likely to vote in elections. So how do you keep them engaged with their communities? And even as we've seen, young people coming up and supporting their communities, that's the thing that you want to do. Promote governance, let them be interested in the governance process, participate in the, helping the communities. A bulk majority of them, want a bigger role to help and help transform the future of the better. We can see the percentage there, or the proportion. These are 15, 24-year-old Kenyans who said they had something to contribute to the community and to the world. A 15-year-old probably does not have, the governance information that he has is quite less. So in as much as, they're almost getting the ID, almost participating in the electoral process, but they have this, desire in them to help the community and also the communities around the world. There are millions of examples of young people doing something positive in their communities, and this is what we really want to encourage, because it keeps them off the street, of the mandamanos, of the hate speech, of social media, the hatred that is there on social media. So they at least have to do something on the side as well. We just had a few recommendations, even as I wrap up. So we, looking at the data that we've collected over, and this is the 7th year that we're collecting some of this data. This particular election, the 2022 election, could be a turning point. And, if we can capitalize on the gains that we've made, I think we can really go far as a country. And this is, some of the sentiments that are coming from the youth. And then governance is just not, is about more than elections. So engaging young people as citizens is about more than ensuring that they vote in the election or connect with the official. It's about engaging them in their communities. As I mentioned before, they want to be engaged in their communities. Most of them don't have the IDs to vote as well. So how can we get them engaged in their communities? And also, finally, it's time to unlock unrealistic potential. So millions of these young people want to make a bigger contribution to their communities. Creating opportunities for that participation will bring big benefits for everyone. It's an opportunity for us to, it's not an opportunity for us to miss. So I'm sorry I've rushed through this, looking at the time that we had, but this presentation is there. We will be able to share it with all of you. In case you have any questions, you can ask them now, or we can continue engaging on matters to do youth, because that's what we do at Shujaaz. Speaking to the youth, we speak to them in the language they understand. If you look at our comic, we mostly interact with them in Sheng. And that's what that's what they understand at that level. So how do we inform them with our media, not only about election? We talk about sexual reproductive health. We also talk about financial fitness, which essentially is the youth in their household. How can you help them grow, continue increasing the earnings that they have? So that's the end of my presentation. I'll welcome any questions.